How does a little rat end up being first in the zodiac cycle? For thousands of years, the humble rat has lived right alongside people. Once humanity started storing grain and keeping food indoors, rats closely followed behind and became a part of daily life. While they are certainly cute, at least in my opinion, plenty of folks would disagree. Rats had a reputation as pesky disease carriers and honestly, a bit of a menace. Interestingly, studies have shown rats can solve complex problems and even help trapped companions, showing surprising intelligence and social behavior. Even so, in Chinese culture, the rat isn't just a pest. It also picked up some positive symbolism too. Because rats survive almost anywhere and multiply quickly, they became linked with abundance and prosperity. In older folk beliefs and zodiac lore, the rat is treated as clever and resourceful. It's also the animal that starts the zodiac cycle, marking the very first year. Over time, it earned a reputation for brains rather than brawn. Personalities are often assigned to each of the zodiac signs, similar to the Western zodiac. In the case of the rat, you are often described as clever and resourceful. You tend to think on your feet and find a way around problems instead of forcing your way through. You're good at making the most of what's available, and you might be a little crafty now and then. The rat is associated with the element of water, flexible and quick to adapt. In a year of the fire horse, move early and trust your instincts. How does a slow and steady farm animal earn so much respect? Long before there were tractors and automation, oxen were the ones pulling the plows. Both farmer and ox spent most of their daylight hours working the fields or rice paddies in the case of the water buffalo. Archaeologists have found evidence of cattle pulling plows in China as far back as 3000 BCE. It was difficult, laborious work that took real strength and dedication, but it fed entire families and villages. When something heavy needed doing, the ox usually handled it. Because of that hard work, the ox became closely connected to rural farming life in Chinese culture. After a while, the animal came to represent endurance and steady labor. Oxen often showed up in pastoral paintings and seasonal farm scenes, usually standing beside a plow or resting out in the fields. Instead of speed or ferocity, the animal became associated with patience and reliability. Personalities are often assigned to each of the zodiac signs, similar to the Western zodiac. In the case of the ox, you are often described as patient and reliable, someone who dedicates their time to projects. You like steady progress and would rather do something properly than rush through it. That calm pace can look like stubbornness now and then, but it's also why people trust you. The ox is associated with the element of earth, grounded and steady. In a fire horse year, hold your pace and don't get pushed around by other people's urgency. Slow and steady still gets you there. How does a tiger go from predator to protector? There were always places too wild to farm or settle in China. Beyond the safety of little villages, the forest belonged to the tigers. Historically, tigers range across much of China, living in the same forest and mountains right beside farming villages. They kept their distance from people most of the time, but everyone knew what could happen if one came too close to a herd or farm. Livestock could disappear overnight. Tracks would show up along the tree line. Most folks never saw the animal itself, only signs that it had passed through. A tiger wasn't an everyday farm animal like the ox. It was something wild and intimidating. The tiger took on a very different meaning in Chinese culture. It became a symbol of strength and protection. Because it was so feared, people believed that even spirits would avoid it. As a result, its image ended up guarding homes or on doorways. You'll see tiger images carved into charms and painted on doors, meant to scare off bad luck or wandering spirits. It wasn't just feared, it was respected. Personalities are often assigned to each of the zodiac signs, similar to the Western zodiac. In the case of the tiger, you are often described as bold and confident. You tend to act first and figure things out along the way, trusting your instincts more than overthinking. Sometimes that courage can look a little impatient, but it also means you're not afraid to step up and take the lead. The tiger is associated with the element of wood, growth and momentum. In the year of the fire horse, things move fast, so trust your gut and don't hesitate for too long. How does a field rabbit end up on the moon? Rabbits weren't animals people feared. Well, Monty Python might disagree with that. However, they weren't used for manual labor like the ox or water buffalo. Rabbits and hares lived in the fields and meadows, sneaking out of their homes to nibble at farmers' crops before darting back into their burrows at the first sign of danger. Most of the time, you only caught a glimpse before they disappeared back into the grass. They reproduced quickly too, raising several litters a year, so their numbers could jump fast when food was plentiful. The rabbit took on a softer meaning in Chinese culture. It became connected with elegance and good fortune. A rabbit even lives on the moon, known as the jade rabbit. It is there that she quietly mixes her herbs to make the elixir of immortality, while keeping the moon goddess company. Instead of strength or power, the rabbit came to represent gentleness and modesty. Personalities are often assigned to each of the zodiac signs, similar to the Western zodiac. In the case of the rabbit, you are often described as kind and analytical. You tend to pay attention to the room before making a move, and usually avoid unnecessary conflict. You prefer comfort over chaos and like to take things at your own pace. That gentleness can seem shy at times, but it also means you rarely make reckless mistakes. The rabbit is associated with the element of wood, growth and flexibility. In the year of the fire horse, things may feel loud and fast, so take the quieter path. Move when it feels right. You'll land on your feet. How does a mighty dragon become the keeper of rain? Dragons didn't live in farmers' fields. You didn't pass one on the road or keep one in a barn. They lived in stories and in the sky itself. Farmers prayed to them for rain when the crops dried out, and fishermen blamed them when storms rolled onto the coves and seas. When the rivers flooded or the thunder cracked overhead, people had said that a dragon has passed through. Dragon imagery like this has appeared in Chinese culture for thousands of years, as far back as the Neolithic period. The dragon took on a very different meaning in Chinese culture. It wasn't treated like a monster. It became a symbol of protection, authority, and good fortune. Dragons controlled water and weather, the very things harvests depend on. Emperors even called them themselves dragons to show their right to rule. Instead of fear, the dragon inspired respect. Personalities are often assigned to each of the zodiac signs, similar to the Western zodiac. In the case of the dragon, you are often described as confident and driven. You tend to step forward when a leader is needed. Sometimes that confidence can come off as stubbornness, but it also means you're willing to take responsibility when things get tough. The dragon is associated with the element of earth, grounded strength beneath all that power. In the year of the fire horse, the pace is fast and intense, but that kind of energy suits you. Step up when the opportunities show themselves. This is a year where you can take the lead. How does a garden snake become a symbol of wisdom? On lazy afternoons, snakes enjoy stretching out on sun-baked stones, soaking up the heat beside edges of rice paddies. Most of the time, the serpents kept to themselves, hanging around tall grasses and low walls, making it difficult for people to see them. Historical farming guides even mention leaving non-venomous snakes alone, because they help protect stored grains from rodents. This naturally helped keep disease-carrying pests under control and made snakes a welcome sight in any farmer's field. While in modern times, ophiophobia, the fear of snakes, is very common. The snake took on different meanings in Chinese culture. Snakes were thought to be connected to dragons and appeared earlier in symbolic totems, according to Lingnan University, Hong Kong. A snake doesn't rush, it waits. Then it moves at the right moment. When it sheds its skin, it's almost like starting over. Instead of brute strength, it came to represent patience and wisdom. Personalities are often assigned to each of the zodiac signs, similar to Western zodiac. In the case of the snake, you are often described as observant and thoughtful. You tend to watch first and act later. You trust your instincts instead of acting reckless. This quiet approach can seem standoffish and even mysterious, but it also keeps you from wasting precious energy. The snake is associated with the element of fire, sharp and perceptive. In the year of the fire horse, timing matters. Move carefully, then commit when your moment comes. How does a farm horse come to represent freedom and speed? Long before steam locomotives or paved roads, most long-distance travel happened on horseback. In northern China and across the Mongolian steppe, riders could cover a day in what would have taken several on foot. Messengers, traders, and soldiers all dependent on the animal. Archaeologists have found horse burials and riding gear dating back more than 3,000 years, which shows how early horses became part of everyday life. Horses took on a meaning of their own in Chinese culture, beyond everyday work. It wasn't only practical, it slipped into legend too. In the Shanghai Jing, a creature called the Longma, or dragon horse, appears as an auspicious sign from the heavens, a symbol tied to wisdom and good fortune. So the horse wasn't just something that carried people from place to place. Over time, it came to suggest something more, the feeling that life itself is ever constant. Personalities are often assigned to each of the zodiac signs, similar to the Western zodiac. In the case of the horse, you are often described as energetic and independent. You tend to jump into things quickly and figure them out as you go. Sitting still for too long could feel frustrating. You like having room to move and making your own choices. That reckless streak can look impulsive now and then, but it also helps you chase opportunities that other people might miss. The horse is associated with the element of fire, warm and lively. In the year of the fire horse, the pace picks up fast. Follow what excites you and don't hesitate too long. Momentum is on your side. How does a quiet pasture animal come to mean luck and kindness? For most of history, goats and sheep were just part of the background of village life. You'd spot them out in meadows or along the hillsides. Little white clouds of fluff against the greenery. Goats and sheep were among the earliest animals domesticated in northern China, kept because they could survive on land too dry or rocky for crops. They didn't haul plows like the ox or riders like the horse. Mostly, they kept to themselves, grazing in the grass before drifting back to their pens at dusk. People kept them for milk or wool, and now and then, meat. In Chinese culture, the goat picked up a surprisingly positive reputation. The character for sheep or goat, yang, shows up in several positive words, including the character for good or auspicious. Over time, goats and sheep became associated with kindness and luck rather than strength or speed. Around the holidays, they're used in paper charms and decorations, small signs meant to invite good luck into the home. Personalities are often assigned to each of the zodiac signs, similar to the Western zodiac. In the case of the goat, you're often described as gentle and considerate. You tend to look after the people around you and notice when something feels off. You prefer cooperation over conflict. That softness can look timid now and then, but it also makes you steady and dependable in ways louder signs aren't. The goat is associated with the element of earth, grounded and supportive. In the year of the fire horse, the pace around you may feel fast and noisy, so protect your energy. Stay close to what feels safe and familiar. Slow steps till you get to where you need to be. How does a mischievous monkey end up outsmarting gods and heroes alike? Monkeys weren't farm animals or quiet field creatures. They lived up in the trees along the edges of forests and hillsides, always watching. Studies on macaques and other monkeys show that they can solve simple puzzles or even use tools to get food, which probably didn't help their reputation for mischief. Even travelers like Marco Polo noted that monkeys living close to settlements in southern China described them as bold and accustomed to human presence in the travels of Marco Polo. In Chinese culture, the monkey picked up a reputation for wit and trickery. It shows up again and again in stories as the one who outsmarts everyone else. The best-known example is Sun Wukong, the Monkey King, from the Journey to the West. He fought gods and slipped out of traps and caused absolute chaos before somehow saving the day. Even when he loses, it's usually because he pushed his luck. The animal also shows up in visual puns and decorations, since the word for monkey, po, sounds like the word for a noble rank. Personalities are often assigned to each of the zodiac signs, similar to the Western zodiac. In the case of the monkey, you are often described as clever and curious. You like figuring out things for yourself. You test limits. You'd rather improvise than follow a strict plan. That playful streak can look scattered now and then, but it also means that you adapt fast when things change. The monkey is associated with the element of metal, sharp and quick. In the year of the fire horse, stay flexible, opportunities pop up fast, and you're usually the first to spot them. How does an ordinary rooster come to represent light and good fortune? Chickens scratched around courtyards and alleyways, picking at insects and scraps while people went about their work. You didn't need much space to keep a few, so almost every household had them. In older Chinese writing, the term Xi Ming meaning rooster crow, shows up as a word for daybreak. More importantly, hens laid eggs almost year-round, which gave families a steady source of food even when hunting or harvest fell short. The rooster took on a special place in Chinese culture. Its crow announced the sunrise, so many people believed it could drive off darkness and wandering spirits. Older traditions even praised the bird for what they called the five virtues, traits like reliability and courage that people admired. In some early depictions of the mythical phoenix, Zhu Feng, the legendary bird, is drawn with 9 rooster heads, lifting this ordinary farm animal into something almost celestial. Personalities are often assigned to each of the zodiac signs, similar to the Western zodiac. In the case of the rooster, you're often described as observant and confident. You notice details other people miss, and prefer things done properly and on time. You speak your mind instead of dancing around an issue. That direct streak can sound a little sharp now and then, but people usually trust you to be honest. The rooster is associated with the element of metal, clear and precise. In the year of the fire horse, stay prepared and keep your timing sharp. Fast years reward people who act decisively. How does a village watchdog grow into a symbol of loyalty? Dogs are truly man's best friend. Around early villages, they lingered near cooking fires and grain stores, scavenging scraps and barking when strangers approached. Over time, they became natural guards, alerting their owners long before anyone else could notice trouble. Some archaeological sites even suggest dogs were used in early hunting, helping track animals through the brush where people couldn't see. Many of these early dogs weren't breeds at all, just hardy village animals that lived half wild alongside people, slowly adapting to human life generation after generation. That closeness carried into culture too, because dogs stayed near their home and guarded it day after day. People began to see them as symbols of loyalty and protection. You'll see guardian figures placed at gates and doorways, including the familiar stone Chinese guardian lions many people casually call fu dogs. The idea is the same. Something watchful stays by the entrance and keeps trouble out. The dog became that steady presence, the companion that doesn't stray far from home. Personalities are often assigned to each of the zodiac signs, similar to the Western zodiac. In the case of the dog, you are often described as loyal and straightforward. You tend to look out for people around you and speak up when something feels unfair. You make commitments and keep them. That honesty can sound blunt now and then, but people know they can rely on you. The dog is associated with the element of earth, steady and dependable. In the year of the fire horse, emotions run hot, so don't get pulled into every situation. Hold your ground and protect what matters. How does the pig behind the house become a sign of comfort and prosperity? Most families kept pigs right behind the house in small pens, feeding them scraps at the end of the day and letting them root through the soil with their snouts. They didn't need much space and grew quickly, which made them one of the easiest animals to raise close to home. Archaeologists have found pig bones at early Neolithic settlements in northern China, including sites from the Peligang culture site dating back to more than 8,000 years, showing just how early pigs became part of village life. The pig picked up a surprisingly warm meaning in Chinese culture, even though a lot of Western stories paint them as messy or lazy. They came to represent fullness and prosperity, the simple idea that a stocked pen meant a stocked table. In folk art and New Year decorations, round little pigs show up again and again as signs of wealth and an easy life. Instead of strength or speed, the animal came to suggest comfort, having enough, living well, and sharing what you have. Personalities are often assigned to each of the zodiac signs, similar to the Western zodiac. In the case of the pig, you are often described as generous and easygoing. You tend to enjoy life as it comes and prefer comfort over constant struggle. You share what you have and don't see much point in holding grudges. That relaxed nature can look a little indulgent now and then, but it also means that you're one of the easiest people to be around. The pig is associated with the element of water, gentle and steady. In the year of the fire horse, when everything's filled loud and rushed, you do better by slowing down. Protect your peace. Let others sprint. In the Lunar New Year zodiac, how does a mighty dragon get replaced by a snail? Well, it depends on where you live. As New Year traditions spread across East and Central Asia, the 12-animal cycle traveled with them. Each region changed a little bit to fit their own culture and language. For example, in Vietnam, the lineup looks almost exactly the same. Rat, ox, tiger, and then, wait, a cat? Wasn't it supposed to be the rabbit? Nope. In Vietnam, the cat takes that place instead. And even then, the ox feels a little different too. More like a water buffalo, the kind you see working in flooded rice paddies across Southeast Asia. In Korea, the goat is often called a sheep or a ram instead. It's really the same animal, just a translation sort of thing. There also seems to be additional concepts added within Korean culture. According to the National Folk Museum of Korea, the animal zodiac signs represent direction and time in astronomy. Japan too likes to keep the same animals, mostly, though their pig is really a wild boar. Even after the country moved New Year's Day to January under the modern solar calendar, the animal zodiacs remained. You'll see a lot of cute figurines of the animals, as well as temple charms and greeting cards. However, we aren't finished quite yet. In Mongolia, the northern areas of Asia, across the steppe, the original animals began to match local wildlife. The ox becomes a yak. The tiger sometimes becomes a spotted leopard. Further west, across parts of Central Asia and older Turkic cultures, there's many other animal changes, including leopards, fish, and even the humble snail. Same 12 years, different animals. So it's not just one story or culture. This calendar and zodiac was shared by many as the stories traveled. If there are only 12 animals, why does the zodiac take 60 years to repeat? And why is this year a fire horse? Turns out the animals are only half the story. Underneath all of that, there's another layer a lot of people don't really know. The elements: wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. Every single year, an element is assigned alongside the animal. So you don't just get a plain old horse. Instead, you might get the spicy fire horse or a sturdy earth horse. The rest all sort of fall in line. Same animal technically, but just slightly different flavor. The animals repeat every 12 years, but the elements follow their own cycle, so the two don't line up the same way each time. It's believed that fire years tend to move fast and chaotic, while water years feel more fluid and flexible. Earth, you guessed it, steady and grounded. Metal is sharp and to the point, and wood leans towards growth and renewal. These little themes add something extra to the year and change the overall tone. So the calendar doesn't simply repeat every 12 years, like many people think. It takes a whole 60 years before you get to the exact same animal and element pair again, which means 2026 isn't simply the year of the horse. It's the year of the fire horse, a fast-moving, fiery, bold year filled with intense passion. So when we talk about each of the animals in the next videos, we're not only looking at their stories and symbolism, but also how each sign handles that kind of year. Some thrive in it, some struggle a little. It just depends.